Hey everybody, it's the Dynamite Show. Paul Fontaine, Jeff Hawkins here on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel. Wednesday night, about 20 minutes after Dynamite ended, actually more like about 12 with the overrun. And on Thursday morning on your Fight Game Media audio free feed. Want to thank you all for joining us. And Jeff, busy week heading into AEW Dynasty, which it's kind of came up pretty fast, I will say. Doesn't feel like a month ago. Well, I guess it technically wasn't a month ago since we had the last pay-per-view, but it'll be a month by the time we get to the new one. And some big news, maybe not really, kind of came out this week. I won't say our friend, but friends of our friends, BJ Bethel of SE Scoops, who we just mentioned on the show we did with Garrett on Sunday. They were the ones, I think, that Garrett had said broke the original news of WBD getting AEW on TV, if I'm remembering right, or it was some news they broke. Anyways, this week, BJ Bethel, who was the first one to report that AEW had a 3-year, $185 million average annual value media rights deal. So he's a good reporter. He's got sources at Warner Brothers Media, obviously. And he reported that sources within, I'm not sure if he said the sources were within WBD, but you assume they would be. He said sources are telling him that the numbers for Max streaming were averaging 500,000 a week. Now, he was also very clear to point out this was not 500,000 views like in YouTube. This was 500,000. It was 60 million minutes watched per week on average, which averages out to 500,000 viewers if you factor it out the way Nielsen does. So could be 500,000 people watching the whole show, could be 1 million people watching half the show, could be 200,000 people watching the show 3 times. Like it's an average count. Could be 60 million people watching 1 minute. Like it's an average count according to him, and again according to what he was told. BJ's a good reporter. I believe that he believes his sources, or he wouldn't publish it. But my first reaction, and I think you're the same, and I'll give you the floor in a second here, just kind of seemed a little unrealistic, given that they're averaging just slightly more than that on cable. And most sports average about 10% extra on streaming, from what we've been told. The article also said that NBA games were averaging 1.7 to 2 million on Max, which that one I found even harder to believe than the 500,000 for AEW, because I've been led to believe, and I believe Dave Meltzer has even reported, that the numbers he gets are about 10% over and above what the cable number is. And the Super Bowl was about the same, and pretty much all live sports are in that 7 to 10% range. Wrestling is usually higher, I believe, number one, because you can watch it on demand, number two, because WWE has conditioned their fan base to watch stuff on streaming with the Peacock and the WWE Network. So I believe that AEW, if they had told me 30%, I would think it's high, but I could see it. I kind of guessed 20 maybe would be the max, but almost even. Jeff, what did you? Okay, just flat out no.
Yeah. And I don't doubt that BJ is reporting what he was told, and I don't think he has an agenda or anything. I think all of the agenda from this is if you're on one side or the other of being hardcore for or hardcore against AEW. I think most of us live in that happy medium of, okay, it's a decent product. It's going along. It's chugging along. But if you have emotional investment in AEW beating WWE, you were out there banging the drum. Going, oh, look at this. We're getting as many people as WWE in a week.
More
they're getting 1 million. I mean,
I think in the article, BJ estimated 1.1 to 1.2 million are watching every week, which if you compare that to the number Dave Meltzer is reporting for Raw, it would be more than Raw. Now Brandon Thurston every week has different numbers, and his numbers are about 30% higher than Dave's. So it would be slightly less than Raw if you're using Brandon Thurston's numbers. But still, like,
there we go.
In 3 months, all of a sudden they went from doing half of Raw to doing more than Raw. I don't know.
No, because they'd be selling out every place they went if these numbers were real.
Raw is, by the way.
And Raw is, and SmackDown's not doing too bad, and NXT, when they go places, sells out buildings too. It's not a... I'm...
Fernando, who's a big AEW fan, says they're a hot product.
They're not that hot. They're not hotter than WWE right now. And that's what the number...
Better. The pay-per-view numbers for the last show were better. It'll be interesting to see what this one does.
They're fine. I have no emotional investment in who's winning the wrestling war.
Yeah, me
because
neither.
it's
Honestly,
not a war.
if these numbers were right, I'd be like, wow, this is awesome.
Yes.
They did 2,500 fans tonight, and that is down 536 from Collision a year ago.
The NFL doesn't get 80% of its broadcast numbers on streaming.
Yeah.
But wrestling's not going to get 100%. I'm sorry. It's... Yeah, okay. They're a plethora.
Dynamite doing 80% on streaming. The NFL does like 10. Now, I mean, it is possible because, the NFL's got more of a casual fan base. The fans are going to watch more on regular TV because it's an older fans. That part, I would believe that Dynamite would have a higher percentage than the NFL, but not 80%.
Yeah, I think they're inflated a bit. That's all. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying, but see, and then it's like, see, you naysayers who think AEW is going under. It's like, I'm not there either, man.
No.
I'm right here in the happy medium. But there are people who wanted to. There are people who are like, think that the ship be sinking, as they say, and it is
clear. It is clear that more people are watching AEW. There's no question about that. Fernando's got a good point. Why do we throw cold water in AEW? I don't want to. I really. Show? Well, yeah, but I mean, we should be rah rah, I guess. We're not like that. I mean, I would love it if these numbers were right, and if they made sense, then I would be believing them. When WWE, when I think when the first Saturday Night's Main Event happened, and I think the rating was like 1.6 million, and then they claimed 700,000 watched on Peacock. My first reaction was, no way. And it turns out, no, that probably wasn't right. It was more like half that because of the way they figured out the numbers, because they were going on views and not average minutes. But in this article, BJ was very clear. We're not talking average. We are talking average, and the average is 500,000. So that's what he's reporting. And he's got sources. I don't. Lady B has a good point too. If the numbers are right, that means they need to do a better job of translating that into ticket and merch sales. Tickets for sure. Merch is a whole other issue. Merch sales.
Their merch departments is 1 hour tees or pro wrestling tees. They don't do a great job on that. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where I'm just like, we're going to have this argued out before we actually get any real numbers, and nobody has any real numbers.
We're never going to get any real numbers. Yeah, we're never going to get real numbers. I mean, this is as close to real numbers as we're going to get. We did get a super chat from Cyclops. I want to thank you very much. $5. So that brings our running total up to 11. So if we get $14 more, we're going to do a review of a Dynamite that you guys request. So whoever puts us over the top, you can pick. But Cyclops Better Wolverine says, if AEW is getting 1 million viewers, TK would never shut up about it. I'm skeptical, LOL. The problem is, and okay, we're going to hear something from Toni tomorrow. They're doing a press conference for
Dynasty.
The pay-per-view. Someone's going to ask about this. I mean, they will. Like, I mean, there's no question. Like, we know reporters that'll be on this call. Sam, Brian Zaleem, who has filled in for you.
I have Sam Shipman penciled in for that question. If it's,
and I already know his answer. I'll tell you what his answer is going to be. I don't have access to those numbers, but from what I understand, our great media partners at Warner Brothers Discovery Media are very happy with the numbers, both on streaming and on cable. Last week, we were the number 3 rated show on cable, and that's not including the Max streaming numbers. So whatever those numbers are, I don't have them. I know that some people at Max do. They seem to be very happy with them. I can't confirm whether or not their numbers are that what BJ Bethel reported, but if they were correct, I'd be very happy with those numbers.
Yes, he's going to say they're very happy with the Warner
and
Brothers is very happy, and we're happy, and it's a nice coexisting relationship.
I really don't think he has the numbers. I think that that Cyclops here is correct. If he did have the numbers, and if they were that high, he'd be the first one to tell us.
Well, if he did have the numbers, there'd be a lot more trouble because there'd be a lot more other shows going, what are our numbers? And then it's like,
I will say, I will present something, and Fernando will like this, because I don't think Fernando's in our Discord, and you should join our Discord because I like your comments, and you're a big AEW fan. I'd like to hear more from you. Ryan Frederick, who does have some sources at Warner Brothers, he was not able to get confirmation of these numbers. But what he did point out was that reports were that the premiere of White Lotus did 4.2 million viewers. And that was between streaming and cable. They did 774,000 on cable. So the other 3.5 million would be on streaming. Now, the key is they reported. Nielsen didn't report 4.2 million. Right. Warner Brothers did.
Hey, if that many people had watched Mike White's other show, I'd still be employed by HBO.
I don't necessarily dispute that White Lotus would do 4.2 million. I hear a lot of people talking about White Lotus. I know a lot of people watch it.
But but it's like Severance. Severance was like 2 million people actually watched it, but it feels like everybody watched it. Or not Severance,
because everybody that watched it
Succession was the one.
Succession, yeah. Well, I think a lot more people watched on streaming. I think the 2 million was just the cable number, wasn't it? Or was that the full number?
Shared passwords, probably.
Matt had a question I wanted to bring up. I put it up on the screen here. When did they start on Max? If numbers are close to that, I think we should see a real attendance increase about 6 months after they start on Max. Okay, they started on Max in January. I don't want to throw cold water, to use Fernando's term, but Raw started on Netflix at the same time. We saw an increase immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also WrestleMania season, and
this is their hot period.
Yeah. So I don't think that's a fair comparison, but we are also not seeing it in the advances. Some of the advances are really low. Like this is going into late May. But I do think that AEW fans are becoming smart to the fact that if they wait to buy tickets, they're going to be cheap by the end. So I wouldn't necessarily say that means anything. 2 weeks ago, Dynasty was looking like it was going to do like 6,000, and it's going to sell out, I think, in that the way they got it set up for like 8,500, 9,000 or something like that. So they're doing good. Us AEW fans are not saying we are better than WWE. Well, some people are. But let us just acknowledge AEW is on the right track with a bright future. I think I will say that this year, and this is going to go contrary to something I'm going to say later on tonight, maybe, that they are on the right track. They're doing a lot of things right. The promotion of the last pay-per-view in particular, I thought was great. What I like, and I don't know if I've mentioned it on the show before, but I've talked about it in the Discord, and I maybe even talked about it with you privately. I like that what they seem to be doing, even though they got this massive roster of like 200 people, they seem to be focusing on a smaller number of people and making sure that those people are on the show every week. Have you noticed that? Am I imagining it? Like
you're not imagining it.
Okay. So I think that's good. I would like to see maybe some people on the show a little bit more. Like we haven't seen Kenny Omega in a couple weeks. We haven't seen the Bucks in a while, but the people that are on the show every week, we're seeing them every week. So I do like that.
I saw Kenny Omega last week.
What? Yeah. Was he on last week? Or was it the week?
Yes.
Before? Okay. So, but add on that
he
show.
He opened the show and they did.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Okay. So
it's
only missed 1 week. Okay. Never mind. I was
AEW historian that I am. Yeah.
Somebody said in the Discord. Did you watch Collision this week?
No.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. I have a question for you later.
I saw some highlights though, so you may
Okay,
not be
all right.
surprising me with anything.
Is the White Lotus number just USA? I don't know that. That I can't answer, but
I wish
crowds
Enlightened had gotten White Lotus numbers. That's all I'm saying.
WWE crowds had Mom, I'm on Netflix signs. Max isn't that popular. Well, that's the thing. Like, I think the list I saw said they're like 8th or 9th in terms of streaming. Netflix, I believe, is either 1 or 2. I think they're neck and neck with YouTube, and their Max
Amazon
is down
Prime,
around
top 5.
Peacock and Tubi. I want to say, and Tubi's rising. Tubi's great actually. And obviously Tony Khan doesn't know what the real numbers are. So yeah, I mean, it was a good discussion point. I understand Dave Meltzer had some analysis on this on the Monday Wrestling Observer. I'm way behind.
I think everybody's up their own ass on it. How about that?
Including us.
Well, not even us. I'm just saying nobody knows anything, and we're talking about it as if anybody knows anything.
Right, and we're all speculating.
Yeah,
like I've even seen people who are very much pro AEW who don't believe the number because it's too good to be true, but they're trying to figure out how they would have got that number. And the theories they've got are wild. And it's just like, I'm not even subscribing to any of those theories. I'm just going off what BJ Bethel reported. We should try and get him on the show. He likes doing shows. I know he did Mike and JD when they were on.
Yeah, he's friends with Mike and JD. He just did Good Bad Hungy with over on Voices and stuff like that.
We might be able to get him.
Well, that's fine. I have nothing to talk to him about, really, if you want to. But, I mean, that's cool. It's just nobody knows nothing. And everybody's, like, trying to ascribe motives to people and things like that. I'm just like, this is just dumb, guys. Everybody's doing okay. It's just that the AEW fans really want to beat WWE. And
gentlemen,
they need that win.
When do you think we'll see the results from the streaming service in regards to the ticket sales or product? I mean, we should have by now, I would think, and maybe we are. Some of the shows have been, like up. This week wasn't, but there wasn't like they didn't announce anything for this week's show.
As soon as you get a star who's bigger than the wrestling, that's when you'll see the uptick.
Yeah. And you know what? To be fair, I don't like her, but Toni Storm is on her way there. I don't know if she'll get there, but she certainly feels bigger than anything else on the show when she's on screen.
Let's go to the next story.
Okay, so the next thing we want to talk about before we get into the Dynamite recap is Bret Hart. Bret Hart was on Ariel Helwani. Now, this is topical for AEW for a few reasons. Number one, we talked about him on the show we did with Garrett on Sunday. He was on the very first AEW show, Double or Nothing. He helped reveal the AEW big gold belt or whatever they call it, the big platinum, I think is what it's called. He was asked about the current state of wrestling, and he said that he believes that all the wrestlers in AEW are actors, and that the only people that are real wrestlers are Roman Reigns and maybe Randy Orton. I don't know. Maybe you have better notes than I did.
Something like that.
Yeah. And to be fair, I think Bret is a little miffed because he didn't get asked to be involved in the Owen, and Tony Khan was asked about it, and he claimed that he thought Bret was under contract to WWE, and that's why he didn't offer him anything. And Bret claims he was free and would have done it if he was asked.
Yeah, number one, Bret Hart judging acting is like me judging wrestling.
Which you do every week.
Well, I don't judge. No, I don't judge. I don't judge the wrestling.
Right. Okay.
I just, I'm not talking about that, but I mean, you watch wrestling with Shadows. He goes, well, if I wasn't a wrestler, I think I'd make a very good actor and be in movies. I just went, brother. I did a spit take the first time I saw that. I think, look, if he's going to be this, okay, let me get my other point out. I think Bret Hart overrates Bret Hart to a point where I can't enjoy Bret Hart a lot anymore.
I've thought Bret Hart has I thought this for approximately 40 years.
Yes, Bret Hart has nothing nice to say about anybody other than Bret Hart and sometimes Owen Hart. That's it. That's the list. Ric Flair, he's too repetitive.
Yeah.
Terry Funk took too many chances. Other guys, blah blah blah.
Dynamite. Now, I think he may have liked Dynamite.
Now I think there's a point somewhere in here. And don't get me wrong. I mean, but he needs to phrase it better. Okay, if he's gonna say that, well, the guys these days they don't work a hold, they don't work a limb. They're just in there to do their set pieces and stuff like that. That's cool. If he's gonna be this rude about it, he needs to name some names, and he needs to tell me why he thinks certain guys are actors or whatever. And what they're doing wrong and what he thinks they could do better, and be a little bit more constructive about it. But as we said on our other show over the weekend, I also think this is some ungrateful shit from Bret Hart.
Yes.
Because AEW brought him in and they recognize his brother. They named a tournament in his brother's name. They brought him in to reveal the championship title. They treated him like a god.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a very good wrestler, don't get me wrong, but this is just the world. Bret's world revolves around Bret. And
we missed Stone Cold. Lady B brought him up. He loves Stone Cold.
Yes, because Stone Cold made him a lot of money.
Yes, yeah. I think he probably likes Punk, would be my guess. I don't think he likes FTR, even though.
But no. He only likes Punk because he does it because Punk used to not like Shawn Michaels and HBK. That's the only reason he likes Punk.
Why?
He might like FTR, but he won't ever say that they're better than the Hart Foundation. He'll say they're better than Jim Neidhart, maybe.
I'm the wrong person to ask this, John, because I'm the one person in Canada that can't stand Bret Hart.
Because of how he went out.
Not just
that's why he's bitter.
I wonder if Bret and Martha are beefing and their underlying issues. Yeah, I definitely think that's a part of it. Matt brings up, does he have heat with Martha? I know Martha was mad that he went back to WWE. And I know that Bret was mad because Martha wouldn't let Owen go into the Hall of Fame. So so those were things. And to be honest, I kind of take Martha's side on both of those, even though I don't like Bret, and I would love to see Owen Hart in the Hall of Fame. But if Martha doesn't want it, that's it. End of story. She's the one person that has the right to say whether or not. And if he's going to go into Hall of Fame, it's probably going to be AEW's
brother. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, and she lost her husband, and her kids lost their father.
Exactly.
And that company was
I have no problem with that.
Yeah. So
I have no problem with her being mad about that.
I would have loved if she relented, and I would have been behind it, and I would have been trumpeting it, but I am not going to hold it against her that she didn't, because I can't blame her at all based on what she went through and the people she had to deal with. So so that was interesting. That was a fun way that was Monday, I think, and Tuesday was fun, and reading the comments and all the people. You know what's funny is the people on places like Voices have kind of lionized Bret Hart in some ways, certainly his in-ring, and listening and watching them churn on him when he said this about AEW is something else.
I mean, there might be a point in there. I mean, that's what I mean, if I were Ariel Helwani, and Ariel Helwani isn't, I mean, he could do this and he's the type to do it, but he usually won't with wrestlers. He could ask them to expound on that. He could ask a follow-up question and go, well, what do you mean by that?
I don't think he wanted to. I don't think he wanted that headline out there. He wanted that headline out there.
Yes, because Ariel Helwani is pro WWE.
And Lady B had a great point as always. Martha and her kids get the final say, not Bret. Always. Absolutely 100%. Not me, not you, not Bret, not nobody. But Martha and Owen, or an Oj and Athena. Is that his daughter's name? I think so, right?
I don't know his kids.
I think it's Oj and Athena. All right. I mentioned the crowd. It was 2,500, down about 400 from last year in the same location for Collision. And we got no credits, and we open with the entrances for Mox Marina and Willow and Swerve. Now, this was the opening match, and apparently it was a mixed tornado tag. So essentially, it was just two simultaneous brawls between Mox and Swerve and Marina and
let me
Willow
stop you
occasionally
there.
interacting. Okay.
Hold on, Paul.
Yeah.
Was it a tornado tag, or
They
was
said
it
it
just
was.
a mixed tag?
No.
Mixed tag that broke down into a tornado.
No, they said it was a tornado tag.
Okay, I missed it then. I came in about 2 minutes late. So
okay, so I fast forward the entrances, and later on they referenced something that I never saw. So I'm assuming the people that watch live will have seen this. Apparently, Jay White got taken out by the Death Riders at some point.
He's injured per fight.
Well, I know he's injured, but apparently this happened. Like, I don't know if it was on screen or if it was just something they said happened off screen. Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. So I didn't miss it. Okay. So this was just, it's phantom injury, and that's fine. That's, he's injured. Yes. He can't be there. That's fine. Okay. I thought I missed something. And they ran down the card during the entrances, which I like, because nobody, there was nothing announced for this. Like, they had this match, they had Cope and Claudio, and Will Ospreay returns. Oh, and Toni Storm versus Penelope Ford. That's what was announced for the show. And that we would get the brackets for the Owen. So the other matches they announced were Kevin Knight and Will Ospreay against whoever the hell they fought.
Blake Christian and
Lee Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think they said Brian Keith and Big Bill would be in action, and Brody King and Lance Archer. So they announced these matches, and also that we'd get the tournament brackets. So, but I will say some people missed that. And later on in the show, when Will Ospreay comes out, and then Kevin Knight comes out, and they kind of stared across from each other and looked like they were about to start wrestling, I guarantee you everyone in that arena thought they were wrestling each other. Lots of people watching, including some people in this chat, thought they were wrestling each other because they missed the announcement earlier in the show, and they only mentioned it once. But yeah, they were tag team partners. So it was interesting. We had a Will Ospreay match that we didn't even know about ahead of time. But anyways, this freaking match. They were brawling for a while, and then finally Willow and Marina got in the ring, and then the ref rang the bell. So apparently everything before that wasn't part of the match. They did mention mixed tornado tag. They were in and out of the ring. I guess the finish had to happen in the ring, but they could do anything they wanted outside the ring. So I guess in addition to being a tornado match, it was also a no DQ. Mox kept threatening to hit Willow, and every time he did, Swerve would make a save. And then Marina dropped Willow through a table, literally dropped her. It looked horrible.
Yes.
And then they went to commercial, and Willow looked dead. They come back from commercial. Marina and Mox are doing a 2-on-1 on Swerve in the corner. And then Willow springs to her feet and does a powerbomb spot off the ropes. You know, the thing where she gets under the two people and does the powerbomb spot. So everyone's down. And then later on, we have Marina. She had a standing triangle on Willow. So Willow's standing up. Marina's around her neck with a triangle. But Willow ended up powerbombing her onto Mox, who had a submission on Swerve. Crowd chanted, "This is awesome." Honestly, that was probably the best thing in the match. Then Swerve was aiming for Mox, but he ended up hitting Marina, gave her a house call. And at the same time, but we never got to see it, Willow put Mox through a table. And the camera completely missed it. And then Willow back in the ring, and she hits a powerbomb on Marina and got the win. And the match was pretty good for what it was. I give it 3 3/4 stars. I'm sure some will go higher. Some might go lower. I don't know. So the baby faces are celebrating. And Mox gets in the ring and gives Willow a DDT. And she's selling it like she's paralyzed. She's saying, "I'm scared. I'm scared." Like, she was selling it really well. Swerve was very concerned. Mox and them left. I hated this. I've seen enough of this in wrestling. We haven't seen it in a long time. I didn't think we ever needed to see it again. And I told myself at this point, like, if this becomes a regular thing, I'm going to check out. That's where we are. Like, it's not a threat. I'm saying, like, if we start seeing, now I said this one other time with Mox, and it was when he had that match with Kenny Omega where he put him through a glass table. This was very early on in AEW. And I was like, if this is what AEW is going to be, it's not for me. And to be fair, it was more or less a one-time thing. I mean, we've seen it occasionally, but it's not a regular thing. If this is something they do once every couple of years for Heat, fine. But if it becomes a regular thing like it used to be in WWE, I'm done. Like, that's it. So
it's very ECW 1996.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Would it have been more palatable for you if instead of Moxley doing the, I don't know who's behind me, I'm just going to hit the first person I touch? If
that's not what happened.
That's what they're trying to tell you what was happening. That is exactly what
I don't think so. If you go back and watch it, I'm not gonna. He was standing behind Willow and grabbed her and gave her DDT. There was a couple other times where he was going for a move and it was almost like he didn't see who it was. But in this case, he was right behind her when he gave her the move. Like, this was as deliberate as it gets.
No, not as deliberate as it gets. Getting deliberate would have just been rolling into the ring and just DDTing her, which I think probably would have been more effective. No, he did the thing where he's kind of like stumbling around and then
if it had been portrayed as more of an accident, yeah, it might have been more palatable. Because you'll note, I did not have an issue with Swerve hitting Marina with the house call. That was an accident. It was done on accident. It happened. Like, it was just a thing. And I know that WWE did one time where Triple H speared Stephanie and she went out of the ring and that led to a finish. Like, I'm okay with that. I don't love it, but I'm okay with it. This was a deliberate man-on-woman attack. I didn't like it. That's all.
See, I would have been happier, or not even happier, but I think I might have been willing to even excuse it more if it were more deliberate. To me, it seemed like they were trying to stage it as an accident, and it happened. Okay. But
Kevin is kind of backing up your version.
Yeah, he backed into it, and then and then he did the DDT, where it's, oops, I didn't mean to, but I'm still gonna take the heat for it, as opposed to just go in there, DDT her, and take the heat.
Maybe okay, and if that's the case, you know what? Maybe I'm overreacting, and if that's the case,
no. I think you're fine. Don't get me wrong, because I don't like intergender stuff. But if we're going for the pure heat, just do it. That's my point. As opposed to we had to pretend it was an accident so that we're not, so that we don't get the feminist writing letters to WBD asking why we're having this man-on-woman violence stuff.
The last time I saw this on a regular basis was Lucha Underground, and it was Sami Callihan running around. I think he had a different name at the time, Solomon Crow or something. And he was breaking women's arms everywhere, and I checked out. Like, I was just done. And I liked Lucha Underground, and that was just too much for me.
If it's done by a heel, it needs to be very, 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 very rare and done for the cheap, almost the nuclear heat, if you can get it. If it's done by a baby face, it should be done very, 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 very rare, and they should come out the next week and apologize for it. But
Lady B, who's the only woman here, as far as I know, says as a feminist, she agrees with Jeff. So, again, I'm not telling anyone else how to feel.
I don't think you're overreacting. Let me state that clearly. I don't like the intergender stuff. I think it's overdone, and I think that's why you're not liking it. And I think it's one of those things where
this may be hypocritical of me, but I would also say that if it was, let's say they just booked a match and it was, trying to think of Willow Nightingale against Blake Christian, I think I would be totally fine with whatever happened in that match. They're about the same size. Willow might even be bigger. And they would probably have a competitive match, and they do moves on each other, and it would be fine. It's the attack that I don't like. And Mox is a lot bigger than her. That's
right.
Like, that's,
I get, and then the visual of that is weird, but they also booked her in a tornado mixed tag match.
Yeah, Ray and Dominic, I'd be totally fine with that.
But I mean, but what are you expecting? I mean, that's one of those things where it's like, the type of match. It goes into Alvarez's Tony Khan's a sociopath thing.
You know what's funny about this though?
Man on woman violence.
There's probably going to be people that are complaining that they didn't do enough.
No, I know there will be. And those people can stay out of my mentions because I don't like intergender wrestling.
Yeah. So I mean, they booked this match.
Heat spots. I do like heat spots, so it's kind of weird. But okay.
Yeah. So I mean, when it's a heat spot, and so I get what you're saying. Like if you had just snuck up from behind and did it, and then bailed, and then and then I would also say, they tried to make this seem like a really big deal. After commercial, they went back for an update and everything, and then you had the Swerve thing where he said he's going to vow to get revenge tonight, and I thought at that point when I saw that, I said, man, you know what? I didn't like that angle, but I like where they're going with this. And I thought we're going to get updates all night. We're going to after every match, we're going to go to the back. We're going to get an update. We might get an interview from Swerve. He's looking for Mox. Might run into somebody else and attack them. We got nothing else. Like they never even mentioned it once after the Swerve promo. That was a missed
on them.
They
should have.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, no, I would have made this a running theme throughout.
Yeah, and that's how you keep viewers, because by the time they got back to it, I think people forgot. I would think,
and I would have included in the end as we wrap up the Hangman thing. I would have made it so. I mean, even Hangman looks at it. It's like, how's Willow or whatever when walking by or something to that effect. You could interplay all these things into that and make it. You could have backstage interviews because they used to do this all the time in the territory days. If something big happens to a star or something like that, you ask everybody in the company how they feel about it.
Copeland does an interview before his match, and he asks about Willow. He says, "Hey, before I talk about this match, have you heard anything about Willow yet? Something like that." Yeah. So, anyways, they after the match, they go to break, they come back. Renee's with FTR, and they showed a clip from Collision where Dax went nuts and he started like just throwing around referees and security guards and everything, and he also threw his partner. And so Renee says Dax was fined $10,000 for putting his hands on a ref. They brought Paul Turner in, who was the ref, to apologize. So he has the check, gives it directly to Paul Turner, tells him to buy something nice from his family, take your wife out to dinner, but don't cash it till Friday. And he laughs about that. And then she says things are heated. Can you put your issues aside? Dax says, we're brothers. Cash is not even looking at him. Cash called him Dan. So he's shooting here. He said I'm sorry, I thought you were a security guard. He said on Sunday, we're going to add to the legacy of FTR. Tried to hug him. Cash wouldn't do it. He says, yeah, we're going to add to the legacy on Sunday, but after Sunday, we got to talk. And he walks away, and then Dax apologized again. And that was something. I'm not buying this at all. I think there's
you're not supposed to. And it's so fantastically fake.
Yeah.
I also absolutely love how janky this check was. This thing looked like it had been crumpled up in somebody's pocket for about 3 days.
Yeah.
Coming out because I'm betting they went back there and goes, all right, who has a check we can use as a prop?
Who even
and everybody just kind of looks exactly. Everybody's looking at each other going, I mean, like if he had Venmo'd the $10,000.
I was gonna say he should have just said you got Venmo, Paul.
Can I PayPal you?
Yeah.
Super chat you for $10,000?
$10,000, yeah. He's got $10,000 sitting in his bank account for that. Yeah. But it was cute. It was fun. It was nice.
It's absolutely a red herring. And
it was a recap from Collision. Not the one we wanted, but we got the one we want.
No,
we got.
But Cash fuming during the entire thing was pretty good this time. So I'll take it.
He was good. He was really good.
Then they showed, you know what? Dax plays Ernest very, very well.
Yes. Yeah.
Because he's not even dropping the facade. It actually seems kind of earnest.
Yeah. No. They showed the replay of the opening angle, which again was good. They showed the DDT again. And Excalibur said she was brought out under assistance. So, and we'll get some medical updates later. And then they announced the brackets for the Owen. Now, there was some discussion about this in our Discord because they didn't have a lot announced for this show. So we thought, you know what, maybe we're going to get like a 10-minute video package with interviews and all this and everything. And I'm like, that was my reaction. I said, I would love to see that. But I said, what I think is going to happen is we're going to get maybe 90 seconds of announcements. If I'm taking the over under on 90 seconds, I'm probably taking the under. What we got was Excalibur announcing the matches. So the men's brackets, Will Ospreay versus the debuting Kevin Knight, and they showed highlights of him losing to Jay White on Collision, and apparently he is taking Jay White's spot. So if Jay White had to beat somebody else on Collision, maybe they'd be in the tournament. Brody King versus Konosuke Takeshita, and later on tonight we'll see Brody King against another member of the Callis family. Mark Briscoe versus Kyle Fletcher, just because they've had 2 5-star matches in the last 3 months, so let's do it again. And Hangman Page versus a wild card. So the wild card is usually a return or a debut. So my first 2 thoughts were Jeff Jarrett or Josh Alexander. I don't know if you had any thoughts.
Josh Alexander. Welcome to AEW.
That means he's going to lose, right?
Here's a loss for you.
Yeah. But you get a match with Hangman on pay-per-view. No, it's not even on pay-per-view. It's not even happening on this show, on Dynasty. I don't think.
I mean, this also screams a place to put Tomohiro Ishii.
Yeah, and he's on Collision. He's on Collision on Friday.
In a match. And it's like, yeah, there you go. I saw some people speculating Darby. I'm like, there's no way they're bringing in Darby for this.
I don't think he's climbed the mountain yet.
No.
I think that's this month.
So I had the same thought you did. Jarrett loses to Hangman or Josh Alexander loses to Hangman.
Or another one could be MJF. Someone suggested, because MJF said he had to prove himself to MVP, so maybe it could be him. Someone else in the Discord brought up Christian, and then he gets screwed because I think last year they did a Christian Hangman had something going on last year where they were supposed to try and help each other. It didn't work out, so it would be a nice callback to that.
I hate that they do this though.
Yeah,
every tournament or everything that we always have to have a wild card, and then they don't do it for the women, so they're not consistent. But also, You're booking a tournament. You should know who's in the tournament. I hate to be Lance Storm about it, but it's just one of those things that just bugs the hell.
And we don't even know when the match is happening. So I mean, it could even be Swerve. If Swerve loses to Mox, he could enter the Owen.
That's true too.
Yeah. In fact, I want to say that happened one time. One of the somebody who was in a world title match ended up in a tournament after, because it started after the world title match. So I think it was like Hangman or Ospreay. Maybe I'm making this up. Then they did the women's. Right. Then they did the women's bracket. So it's Jamie Hayter, who returned on Collision on Saturday. If you missed that, sorry on you. She's facing Billy Stark, so that's a rematch. They just wrestled each other on Collision, and they're wrestling again in the tournament. Thunder Rosa versus Chris Statlander. I think they've been teaming recently, and now they're going to be wrestling each other. Yeah. Julia Hart versus Mercedes Moné, just because. I guess they're both former TBS champions. And Julia just came off a grueling series of matches with Queen Amanada.
Grueling's one way to put it.
Harley Cameron versus Athena. Now,
sure, why not? Why not?
Okay. Now, Athena. If you only watch Dynamite, you wonder, who's Athena? Well, she's the former Ember Moon from WWE. She's also the Ring of Honor champion and has been for well over 2 years. She's also the mentor, minion overlord of Billy Starks, who has been on Dynamite recently and who has been backhandedly referenced in promos, but never actually named. Now, if you decided to check out a different AEW program this past week, you may have watched Collision and you would have seen the aforementioned Athena debut. Not debut, but return to AEW programming. Yeah, she showed up after the Mercedes Moné. Where's the match or a promo? I think it was a match. She wrestled Robin Renegade, and she came out to confront her. Mercedes did a promo, and she basically just talked about Billy Starks and said whoever trained her sucks and blah blah blah. Out comes Athena, and they had a great confrontation, and then they kind of got physical, and Athena ended up giving Robin Renegade the O face, which is her finisher. And that was that. And then they did promos afterwards. I want to say, like, if you somehow miss Collision and want to go back and watch it, if you like women's wrestling, that was a good show. And I don't mean just for the wrestling.
Right.
The women were all over that show. Every second segment had women in it. I was loving it. I just thought, this is what I've been asking for years. Put the men and women on an equal footing and book the show like they're equals. And they did that on Saturday, and it was a good show. Now, it didn't do so great in the ratings, but that's fine.
I love the way they shot that Penelope Ford attack.
Oh, yes.
Too. That was great. And they recapped that. Yeah.
Yeah. Toni Storm was like, and she's doing a promo. She's against the ropes, and there's a spotlight on her. And then all of a sudden, from out of nowhere, Penelope just drops her, and you don't even see it coming. It was awesome.
That was strong.
Yeah. Kevin, the recap of Athena showing up on Collision was incredible. So Kevin went into our Discord chat on for Collision, and he's like, just asked a simple question: why did they put this on Collision? And oh my God, the shitstorm he started, and it's not his fault. People left the Discord over it. There were some.
Did they?
I may or may not have been involved.
Kevin's driving people off now.
It's not Kevin. It's not Kevin. It's honestly.
Look, there's pros and cons to both sides. The pros are, yes, you may actually get people to start watching if you actually put interesting stuff on there. The cons, it's considered the secondary show, so nobody's going to watch it. It's a no-win situation, right?
I will say, and I said this in the Discord, I thought putting it on Collision was smart. And the reason is because if they did it on Dynamite, there may be a lot of people who don't know who Athena is because they don't watch Ring of Honor. They may not have watched WWE 5 years ago. They may not remember her even if they did. So putting it on Collision, where they have a more hardcore fan base, ensured that the people would react well to it, and they would also talk about it on social media, and you might get some people checking out the show after the fact, which I believe
Kevin's
happened.
on one. You may want to put his next comment up here too.
Oh, what's that? They didn't recap it at all? Oh, and they made a bigger deal of Harley's puppet than Athena confronting Mercedes? Yeah, they did.
Yes. Yep. Yes, they did.
And Lady V says that Kevin's her hero. Curry had asked, should they do at least once a month have a majority women show on Collision? I think they should just do the shows and have the women be equal parts. Sometimes there's more women stuff. Sometimes there's more men stuff. Just book your shows, and whatever works. Maybe 1 week, you know what? We get like 60% of the show is women. Then the next week it's 20%. Like, but you can't just have a stopwatch and count the amount of time in a women's match. You have to look at the whole show. And if you looked at the whole show on Saturday, you can't help but see, oh my God, like the women are all over the show, and it's good. There was one segment involving women I didn't like on that show, and there's probably more involving men that I didn't like, but there's the Serena Queen Aminata thing was stupid. But other than that, everything else was great.
They need a hook for the show. That's what they need.
How is AEW supposed to make Collision good unless they put storylines in matches? It's a catch-22.
It's a catch-22, as we said.
I will say how you do it. You have acts that are exclusive to Collision, more or less, and you do good storylines on the show. Reward the people that are watching that show. And if you do something important on Collision, tell people about it on Dynamite.
You show it on Dynamite. You show the highlights on Dynamite, and you say you can only see this if you watch Collision live every Saturday.
And I will say, every one of us who talked about this in the Discord, with no exceptions, we all said, well, of course they're going to recap it on Dynamite. I was baffled that they didn't recap it on Dynamite. And so did you see it? Did you know about it?
I saw highlights on Twitter.
Okay. But you would have liked to have seen it on the show. But you would have liked
Yes. Yeah. I'd love them to I'd love them to do a 5-minute recap on Dynamite of what happened on Collision.
Yes.
In case you missed
Kevin Knight. We saw this, we saw that. Yeah. Maybe like
they did that throughout the night. They did it okay on that, but still, it's one of those things.
Yeah, they did everything.
Drive people to the no, but seriously, drive people to the show as opposed to just assuming everybody watches all AEW product.
You know what? I'm going to say something here that I don't even believe. The message they sent tonight was that the Athena return wasn't all that important. Like, that's the message they sent.
It's not to Toni.
Like, but it is. That's the problem. Like, she's going to be in a big match with Mercedes. I'm sure she is.
No, well, it's important in that respect, but it's not more important than the stuff.
I mean, maybe it's not important. Maybe it's not important right now. That's possible, because we still haven't even seen her on Dynamite. So, and I would imagine her tournament match probably going to be on Collision too. And then we'll have this conversation again. All right, back to the show. Toni Storm and Penelope Ford. So I didn't write down a ton about this match, but there was one point in this match where Penelope tried to lick Toni, and Schiavone said he'd never seen it before in his life. I swear to God, we've seen this in like 6 or 7 different Toni Storm matches. Sometimes she does it. Sometimes people do it to her. I was baffled by Tony Schiavone saying he's never seen it, and nobody called him out on it, but whatever. I think they did it with blood on the pay-per-view, actually. Then Toni hit her sweet cheek music and then a DDT, but Ford kicked out. That kind of surprised me. I thought the match was going to be over there. Then she did an STF. Penelope made the ropes. I wrote down they're putting in time here. Penelope hit her moonsault off the apron to the outside, did a gut buster for 2. Crowd isn't reacting at all to the near falls because there wasn't a person on earth, including Kip Sabian, who thought that Penelope Ford could win this. But they got behind Toni thanks to Luther. Toni hits a reverse German, went for the Storm Zero. Ford reverses. Then she just hit it again and won the match. And that was that. It was fine.
I thought Penelope Ford had a pretty good night.
Yeah, it was a good match. It was a good match.
But the problem is when you do this, you're exactly right. Nobody in the building thinks she's going to win. So probably her next match, she needs to have a kind of a surprise win if you were going to do something with her. I don't assume you are, so it doesn't matter. But it's like the interchangeable Lees. Lee Moriarty and Lee Johnson. It's like, if somebody named Lee is coming to the ring for AEW, they're going to lose probably. So, what's the use of it? But I do like Penelope Ford. I like
I don't like that she's not doing the Moodalock anymore. I love her Moodalock.
Yes. That was good too. And she doesn't do the Matrix thing that much anymore.
She did it. She did here. Toni went for Larry. She did the Matrix.
I missed it. Okay, I missed it then. Okay.
Yeah, she did that. I didn't put it in my notes, but I did remember seeing it.
I would love more like I also like this combination of her and Megan Bayne.
Yeah.
And I'd like them to get some backstage promo time to see if they gel as a crew, but that's just me.
What Toni hadn't seen before was Toni biting Penelope's tongue and holding in her teeth. Her hair kind of obscured it. Yeah, I didn't even see that. So and then I wrote down, I'm going to just read exactly what I wrote. Bayne came out wearing her goofy hat to congratulate Toni. Toni poses with her belt. Toni challenges her to fight. She backs off and leaves with Ford. I think I got it. It was fine. It was she didn't want to fight. She was like, we're going to do it Sunday.
Well, in the graphic for the match, it was assumed, I thought, that Megan Bayne was coming to second Penelope Ford, and she did not. Because she was in the background. It's like Penelope Ford versus Toni Storm, but there's Megan Bayne in the background. It's like, okay.
Maria says that Megan should win the championship. We actually had a discussion about this today in the Discord. Megan, you should come in and join. Lady B's in there too. I wouldn't say that she should win, but I would say that if she did win, I wouldn't be upset. And I would also say our friend Larry had what I thought was a cool idea of how to do this, and this resulted in some heated discussion again. But
because Larry does that, Larry puts in an idea.
No, but I agree with him.
Interesting.
I like this idea though. He thought, if you remember the Brody Lee Cody Rhodes TNT title match where Brody just destroyed him in like 3 minutes, and then they did a rematch and Cody won the belt back. I thought that, hey, you know what? That sounds kind of cool. Might get Megan Bayne over.
No, that would have been cool if they hadn't already fought each other in a tag match.
Yeah, and the other thing is, and the good points that were brought up on the other side were, Toni is maybe the hottest person in the company right now, and maybe it's not a good idea to beat her before she gets to Mercedes.
Yeah, no, Mercedes and Toni is the money match and can headline a pay-per-view. You don't beat either of them until then. And that includes Athena, and I love Athena to death.
And that is standard booking. Now, I will say, I think I would make an exception there. I think that Athena could beat Mercedes in the tournament. Not win the belt, but beat her in a match, and then
non-title match. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, and you could lead to a title match where Mercedes wins, and that doesn't hurt Mercedes Toni at all. I don't believe it does. Anyway.
Yeah, but here's the problem. All In's in Texas.
Yes.
When they were promoting this, Athena was the hometown, blah blah blah, during the entire media scrum.
Maybe Athena wins the Owen and she challenges Toni. Everyone's assuming it's going to be Mercedes that she challenges, but maybe it'll be Toni. Maybe Athena Mercedes is, well, actually, if Athena and Mercedes are going to meet in the tournament, it's going to be in the semifinals because they're on the same side of the bracket. So,
are they not meeting on Sunday?
No,
Athena and Mercedes. I thought
no. Mercedes wrestling Julia Hart on Sunday.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah. And Athena's wrestling Harley. So they're meeting on Saturday. They're going to be in the ring with each other. But they are not. Yeah, they're not.
That's what I was saying. Okay,
yeah,
well, cool.
Yeah. So Renee has a medical update on Swerve, and here's where we got the promo from Swerve. He says, Willow is strong, powerful, and brave. Honestly, I don't mind facing off against the Death Riders with her. His words, they are two of the most dangerous men in pro wrestling. So I guess Marina's a man. But she welcomed the challenge. Knowing the history of neck issues, you chose to do what you did to her tonight. I didn't know about a history of neck issues with Willow. So now I'm on the hunt. I'm not resting until I have my hands on Jon Moxley. Not before Philadelphia, not before Dynasty. Tonight, by the end of tonight, I will have my hands on Jon Moxley. I promise you. I wrote down this is a good hook to keep viewers. I assumed we'd get a few more of these segments, and that was it. We never heard about this again. Nothing for the rest of the night. The announcers never mentioned it.
Again, it's a lot like last week's Swerve promo. I kind of wanted the second half, or I wanted the second promo that he did with Renee here in the first one. I wanted her, where's your husband?
Yeah.
Boom. Then we get into it. But
he called her his husband last week, right?
Called her that tonight.
No,
right before
somebody else
Hangman.
did. Yeah,
yes.
But someone else called.
Else did.
Like,
that's fine.
There's been a few times because someone brought it up tonight, and I'm like, I'm sure it's happened a few times recently.
It's happened a few times. It's happened a few times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It was one of those things where it's like, I'm gonna give this expositionally monologue, and then I'm gonna get emotional. And it's like, no, just go with the emotion and see what it does right there. That would have been.
Did you
I thought that was fine.
Did you know about Willow's neck issues?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Did Excalibur mention
She's been injured before?
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. That might have been a good idea because people like me who have bad memories, they need the announcers to remind us of things. All right. They announced the schedule. They announced the schedule for All In Week here. So they're going to be doing a Dynamite on Wednesday from the Curtis Caldwell Center, which is it's like a small building. It seats about 3,000. They've run ROH pay-per-views there before. I think they've even done Dynamite there. Then they're doing a live Collision on Thursday, which is becoming a thing. There's going to be one WrestleMania week as well. They're doing a live Collision on a Thursday. And then I believe it was Andrew Zarian reported that during the Stanley Cup playoffs, they're actually going to do a 4-hour show, Dynamite and Collision back-to-back around the Stanley Cup. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work, but sounds
thoughts
like
and prayers to that crowd. Jeez.
Thoughts and prayers to us if we have to recap it. I may be recapping Dynamite during Collision that week. You know what I mean? And then we're going to have the ROH pay-per-view on Friday from the eSports Arena. So I assume they're going to be doing another residency there that hasn't been announced yet. And then All In, and this is kind of big news, is going to be 2 p.m. Central, so 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific on Saturday. So basically the same time as when they were all in London, they're doing it at the same time. So my first reaction when I saw that was, oh, okay, they're going to be doing it at the same time. Maybe that's to help out the European audience. It's a tradition. They've done it 2 years in a row. And then, of course, someone brought up, oh, no, they moved it up because they don't want to go head-to-head with Saturday Night's Main Event. And then someone even published an article that said that they moved the show because of Saturday Night's Main Event. I don't think...
I have no problem with that. If they
No,
did.
if
I don't
that's
think
what they did, but I don't think they did. I don't think they did. I think it's just a decision that they made. I think they looked at the buy rate for last year's All In the afternoon. It was good. They probably got more European buys than usual, and they just thought, hey, this is a tradition. We're going to do afternoons for All In. I believe that.
Given the propensity of AEW pay-per-views running long, I have no problem with them starting earlier.
Because they're probably going to go to like 8 o'clock. Yeah.
They'll still go to 9 p.m. probably.
Well, 2 o'clock is actually the pre-show. So the regular show is not going to start till 4, which means that they will run head-to-head with Saturday Night's Main Event for at least part of it. But they'll have the head start. So maybe they actually hurt Saturday Night's Main Event a little bit. But I think they're two separate audiences. The audience that buys AEW pay-per-views is probably not watching Saturday Night's Main Event for the most part.
They'll double screen it if they wanted to because they're sickos.
Could, yeah, they'll be double screening it in the building there. Plus, well, okay, I think it's a closed roof. Lady B's there. She might know, but because
Lady B has a great point.
Yes. Oh, man, this is an awesome point. If Will is winning the main event, it makes sense for UK viewers to be able to see it at a normal time. 100% absolutely have not seen anyone else make this point. You win the internet today, Lady B. That is a great point.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
Those third world viewers need to see their champ.
Yeah, I love that. Okay.
I just like taking digs at England, guys. Don't take that seriously.
Next, we got one of the things I really liked on the show. Lashley and MVP come out in their suits. And apparently there was some bad weather in Peoria, so Shelton couldn't make it. Fans were chanting Bobby. MJF's out before either one of them can speak. He comes in the ring. People are actually chanting for MJF, and he kind of looks at them and doesn't even acknowledge it. He says, gentlemen, Montel, you look fantastic tonight. Give it up for MVP, everybody. And then the fans chant, so does Bobby. MJF kind of laughed at that, and he says, I'm talking. Now, pardon the interruption. You kind of disrespected me too, didn't you, Bob? Crowd gasps. Said, I'll let it slide because you don't know me like he does. So allow me to introduce myself. My name is Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF. I'm a generational talent. I know about you. I also know about the gold standard, Shelton Benjamin. Shelton, I know you had travel issues, buddy. I love you. I'll see you down the road. And you, Bob. We all know about Bobby Lashley, all-time great. You've been around the block a time or two. Well, this is AEW, and you're standing on the block I built. Now I know this place like the back of my hand. I know how to get to the top and stay at the top for a record-breaking reign. And I can help you and Shelton hold on to those titles as long as your cold hearts please. And I know you guys can help me get back my AEW World Championship. So basically what I'm getting at, Bobby, is MJF and the Hurt Syndicate is just good business. Montel knows it. I know it. Even these mouth breathers in the Midwest know it. So talk to me when Peoria ever mattered, ever. This isn't even a real place. MVP whispers something to him, and he says, yeah, you got a good point. But we don't ever hear what it was. I'm like, I gotta know. Sucker's got to know. I don't think we're ever going to know. But he says, what I'm getting at is this. You may not want MJF, but Bobby, you big, beautiful bastard, you need MJF. And then Bobby answers, let's be real clear. Out of respect for MVP, I'm not going to leave you laying here right now, but I want you to know something. I don't like you, and I don't trust you. And the Hurt Syndicate damn well doesn't need you. So unless you prove otherwise, you need to get out of this ring and get out of my face right now. And MVP got between them. And the MJF says, you want me to prove myself? Gentlemen, thank you for the time. Peoria, y'all stink. Thanks. And MVP says, don't worry about him. I was the same way at his age, and Bobby's just not having any of it. I like this a lot. Sorry. Guilty pleasure.
I did too. It was
fun.
Oh,
really? Okay.
I enjoy MJF shtick. I enjoyed, again, the shout out to Shelton killed me. Like, because it was so.
Didn't you say like Shelty baby or something?
Yeah. Well, there was absolutely no snark to it at all. It was just one of those weird, oddly like Dax in the Czech segment. It was like, yeah, man, love you. Can't wait for you to get back. And now you, Bob.
Yeah, Bob. Yeah, it's he's great. And yeah, sometimes his stuff he didn't go too long either. Like this was like maybe 5 minutes. He has a tendency to go long at times, but this was more about MVP than it was about, or Bobby really, than it was about him. So he kind of let it breathe a little bit. I kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like the
we've heard this before, Benny. Believe it or not. You guys seem like the Statler and Waldorf of wrestling. Yeah, it's kind of our thing. 5-star promo, Maria says.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah. I think we may be older than them. Maybe. You know, I'm like 10 years younger than Archie Bunker was at the start of All in the Family.
We're older than Wilford Brimley was in Cocoon.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
know that Statler's it's either Statler or no, Waldorf's wife's name was Astoria.
Really? Astoria
that
Waldorf.
out watching.
Imagine that.
Waldorf, yeah. I was watching a Muppet Show. Anyways, let's go.
All right. Well, this show can be like the Muppet Show at times. All right. Big Bill and Brian Keith against two jobbers. We never did get their names.
Doesn't matter. This is fantastic.
Talk about this match.
Murder death, and I loved every moment of it. And it made Bill and Brian Keith look like killers and look like a good team. This is all I want in my wrestling.
These jobbers.
This is all I want. I love that they put in an injured jobber, and then they had him get slammed by Big Bill.
He had a thing around his shoulder.
Shoulder brace.
CJ Esparza and Gage Noonan. These were your jobbers' names.
I've already forgotten their names.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
don't
Big
care.
Bill
loved this.
Big Bill picked one of them up, threw him down, tossed him to Brian Keith. Brian Keith kicked his head off. Then he grabbed the other one, started literally choking him like this, and then he threw him into the ropes, grabbed him again, choke slammed him, and pinned him with one foot. It was awesome. And the guy he choked was the one that was injured already.
I love that they came out pissed and they acted pissed and they never let up, and they never had to give any shine to another team to make it look.
They did a stare down on the way down with Bobby and MVP. Brian Keith got a chair. Big Bill set it up for Bobby. Bobby's like, "Fuck this!" Tosses the chair aside, but they stayed there and watched the match. Oh, and at some point, somewhere in here in this 83-second match, Big Bill grabbed one of the jobbers and threw him like 30 feet, and he landed at Bobby's feet and just laid there. Yeah, and he laid there for a long time because when they were doing
this is the Brian Keith and Big Bill I want always.
Yeah, they were great. And Bobby did a fake clap. Bill grabs a mic and he says, "On Collision, we whooped Top Flight's ass. Tonight we whooped." He looks back and he says, "Their ass." And on Sunday in Philadelphia, we're going to whoop your ass. We want that match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. And MVP is about to grab the mic, presumably to accept the challenge. Bobby takes the mic. He smiles and gives Big Bill a thumb up, and they walked away. I like this because I think it's pretty clear they're trying to turn Bobby heel so that this MJF thing will work. I think.
No, they're turning Bobby babyface, I think, so that it'll work.
Really? I thought like him not accepting the challenge was kind of heelish, no? Or am I misreading?
He's acting like a jerk, don't get me wrong.
Okay.
But to me, his babyface turn is going to be when he turns on MJF.
If MJF joins the Hurt Syndicate, if he joins that group, he's going to be babyface. Like they're all going to be babyface.
Well, but okay, hear me out, because this is a pitch I was thinking about, and it's never going to happen, but this is what I would do if I could have my own way, because I like Big Bill and Brian Keith. I would have them win the titles, and MJF comes down to try and help the Hurt Syndicate, and it's one of those, oops, did I mean to hit you, Bobby, or did I not mean to hit you, Bobby? 1, 2, 3. Big Bill and Brian Keith are your new tag team champions.
Or you could do what Lady B suggests here, that he actually helps them and he gets in the group. You could do that too. I like both. Like he could actually help when they don't actually need the help. You know what I mean? Like he lays out Big Bill with a chair just as like Bobby's about to spear Brian Keith, and then he claims he helped them when he didn't actually help them.
But Brian, but Brian Keith and Big Bill getting the titles also helps them advance or even get past this stupid learning tree thing.
True. True. Yeah. I mean, they're still coming out to Learning Tree music. No Jericho tonight. I guess he couldn't get through the weather problems, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Benny, who's joining us tonight, who called us Statler and Waldorf, and I concur with Jeff, by the way. I'm not the least bit offended.
It's not the first time I've been called that. I was called that for improv too. So it's like, just sit up in the balcony and snark at people's shows. I go, yeah, kind of.
Lady B wishes MJF was in the Owen. Well, him saying he has to prove himself, maybe he is going to be in the Owen. They haven't announced that yet.
I do want Max in. I want him in this Hurt business. I do.
Yeah,
I like the idea of it.
I also want Megan in there, but I don't think that one's happening.
Yeah, that's true.
Renee was in the back with Mercedes. She said earlier tonight we revealed the brackets, and you're set to face former TBS champion Julia Hart on Sunday. Mercedes says Julia Hart is a very mysterious and unpredictable, but she's not the greatest TBS champion of all time, is she? And Renee's like, nope. And she says it's going to take more than tricks and spells to stop the money train. And then Renee says, on Collision, there's a tag team match featuring participants in the Owen. And she starts to run it down, but Harley shows up with her Mercedes puppet and does some ventriloquism. And then she says, we really brought the house down under, didn't we? A new dream team, Mercedes, Renee, and Harley Cameron. She says, the train station of money and wrath of excellence gone choo choo choo. It's just killing myself laughing.
She's an absolute wonderful flake, and this promo stunk, but her delivery was fantastic.
Mercedes is desperately trying to keep a straight face, and she says, just stay out of my way on Collision. You got this. And they mentioned who they were fighting, and then Harley says, I got it with the best name, the Money Wrath Train. And then the puppet said choo choo, and then they announced it was Monet and Harley Cameron against Athena and Julia Hart on Collision. This was wonderfully.
And then Taz absolutely ruins the segment by saying he wants to buy the puppet.
Yes, I mean, yeah.
It's like you don't say that on air. You just sell the puppets. That's what you do. You go and you make about 1,000 of these, and they sell out every freaking where.
Yeah,
and you make a ton of money, and Mercedes can buy a new house. And Jeff could get 10% perhaps for.
And and this is what we were talking about earlier with the problem that they have with merch. It's not that people aren't buying it. It's that they're not selling it. Like they're literally not selling it. You go to an AEW show and they've got 4 shirts and one of them is AW, and then you've got
they don't have the overhead to take a bunch of merch with them.
Yeah.
That's the thing it's cost prohibitive to take shirts for every single act and merchandise for every single act on the road. So they only make it a limited supply when everybody wants them. We saw this kind of problem when New Japan was white hot and they'd come to the States and you'd miss half the show waiting in line to get a shirt or whatever.
And Lady B points out all the
But yes, they should absolutely make puppets. Make puppets for these ironic neck beards.
I'm wearing a wrestling shirt right now.
So they
there
can
only
lift them
be
up
one.
and do puppet stuff.
Their online partners not great either. Are they sneaky turning Mercedes face? Her path in the Owen is through heels, and she's teamed with Harley. Maybe. I mean, the problem is, I don't know if Athena is a heel or a babyface in AEW. I think she might be a babyface. But
everybody's a shade of gray.
Yeah. It could be though. It could be. I mean, the thing is, she's more likable when she's a heel, but the longer she remains a heel, the more she's going to get cheered until she turns heel. Until she turns babyface, and then everyone's going to start booing her again. If history's any indication. All right. So next we got
but hold on. If Athena comes back to Dynamite to AEW television on a regular basis and does the Minions act, she'll be a babyface.
Yeah, even though she's a heel in ROH. Yeah.
Well, she'll bring back Lexi into the fold, and then it'll be a 3-person comedy.
Well, she fired Lexi. Maybe she'll bring Renee in. Oh no!
Yes, no. She'll bring Lexi back as part of the AEW quote unquote angle package, and you'll get a cheer from the 4 people who watched it in ROH
and remembered. Yeah. All right. Next, we got this thing that I talked about earlier. So they introduced Will Ospreay, and they'd advertised Will Ospreay is returning. So if you missed that brief announcement earlier in the show, you thought, okay, he's going to have a match. So he comes out, and then the next person they introduced is Kevin Knight, and they showed highlights of his match on Collision, and everything, and then they're like staring at each other, and they're kind of like across from each other, and you think, okay, they're going to start wrestling, and then all of a sudden they introduce their opponents, and it's Blake Christian and Lee Johnson. So we saw Blake Christian lose last week to Kenny Omega, and Lee Johnson, I believe, was in his corner. So we have this match, and crowd is pretty quiet at first, except when Will Ospreay's doing anything, because they don't know 3 of the 4 people in this match, unfortunately. Now, eventually, they got the people into it because Kevin Knight is pretty fantastic. He's great. He's got great aerial stuff. He's, the gimmick in New Japan was It Must Be the Shoes, which is off of Michael Jordan. So every time he did like one of those jumping moves, Chris Charlton would say, "Oh, it must be the shoes." And, that's kind of his thing. And so they did stereo spots with him and Ospreay, and Ospreay was like marking out for his stuff. So kind of doing everything they could to get Kevin Knight over in this match. And Blake Christian and Lee Johnson were good, like tackling dummies, I guess. They did get a little bit of offense in, maybe too much. And then eventually, he did whatever right here. So they did a double team move. Knight drop kick Christian into a code red by Johnson. That was pretty cool. And then Knight went to the top, hit a springboard lariat on Lee Johnson, and he got the win. So like in this match with Will Ospreay, Kevin Knight was actually the one that got the win. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, because he's eating the loss next time.
Yeah, I thought it was a good debut for Kevin Knight. He had a good match on Collision, even though he lost. And he also had a great match with AR Fox on Ring of Honor last week. So good start for young Kevin Knight in his AEW/ROH career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm going to say? What I'm going to say every time we debut somebody. Can he promo?
No.
Okay.
Not at all. He's
Enjoy Rampage.
He's Trick Williams without the promo ability. And he's better. He's better in the ring than Trick Williams.
Yeah,
but he looks similar to Trick Williams if you missed the show. Would you? Okay. I always thought that if you could combine him,
he's not nearly as big as Trick Williams.
No.
Trick Williams is huge.
Yeah. Well, he looks big in this company though. Like he's ripped. This guy, yeah. Like he looks pretty big. Yeah. Anyways,
I'm just thinking it's counterproductive. I mean, yeah, he got the win here, and that's great. You give him the little bit of the rub, and then you go, "Oh, and you two are fighting each other on Sunday."
Yeah, well, that's it. So after the match, Tony Schiavone grabs a mic and he's talking to the crowd, and he says, "Got big news. In the first round of the Owen Hart, Will Ospreay." Well, I guess they'd already announced Will Ospreay is going to face Kevin Knight, but we didn't know when.
They had.
So they said. Yeah, but they didn't say when. So it's going to be Sunday at Dynasty. Will Ospreay, Kevin Knight. So we've talked about this before, I think. I know I have, with you. It's like a selling point because I know WWE is interested in Knight, but Tony Khan can offer a pay-per-view match with Will Ospreay. That trumps money to some of these guys. It's like, hey, if you sign with AEW, we'll put you in the ring with Will Ospreay. Kevin Knight, where do I sign?
If he did that, I don't know. I think, okay, you get that one great banger, and then it's, now what do we do with you?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at this tournament bracket. I'm like, okay, I want to put him in. I got to be honest with you. I mean, it's fine. It's good. I would have put him in if you could have given him a win since you literally just signed him.
Well, the interesting thing is apparently he took the place of Jay White. So that means Jay White was going to lose in the first round?
Not necessarily.
Wait, he's going to beat Will Ospreay?
Yeah,
I think so. Oh, I don't know. I mean, the brackets.
Chicanery.
I ran over the brackets. I mean, this tournament looks pretty easy to book. Will Ospreay is going to beat Kevin Knight. Konosuke Takeshi is going to beat Brody. So they'll face in the semifinals. Will Ospreay probably beats
That's the only one I'm not sure of because we've been telling the story of Brody King continuing to lose to Takeshita. So maybe he gets an upset win.
Yeah,
it's like, oh my God, Brody King.
But then he'll lose to Will. And then on the other side, we got Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher. I mean, either one of those guys could win. It'll probably be Kyle Fletcher.
Mark Briscoe cannot win that match.
Well, he's beaten him before. And
it's
not
a
that
tournament.
long ago.
It now matters.
Yeah.
It matters.
And then
now.
Hangman Page in the wild card. I mean, it's got to be Hangman. I think seems like we're clearly setting up for Will Ospreay and Hangman in the finals, which makes sense because they're the first two guys that talked about it, and they're probably the two top guys. Yeah. So, and either one of them could win. So,
yes.
All right.
And I'm fine with that. That's a perfectly fine tournament.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. Right. So we got a message from the ops. This was interesting. So Shibata had a camera, but then I guess there was someone else there, and Joe told that guy to hold the camera. So Shibata joins the shot, and he says, "Small Joe here with Hook and Shibata. Why did I start this group? Well, I understood the battlefield was changing, and the nature of warfare was changing with it. So I need to bring a different arsenal, and that's what these guys represent. We'd like to expand our influence in AEW. So the ops will be in the at Revolution and AEW, and we'll be watching it all and seeing it all, and don't let us catch you lacking." I thought this was weird because if you watch Revolution, they did the exact same thing at Revolution. They sat in a freaking box all night and watched the matches, and they didn't do a damn thing. And Joe just basically told us, yeah, that's what we're going to do this Sunday too. Good gig if you can get it, but
I wouldn't mind Joe being the wild card.
That'd be cool. Joe and Hangman.
Yeah,
I mean,
that'd be cool.
The problem is whoever the wild card is got to lose, right?
Yeah, but Joe could lose, Swerve. And they could tell that story about the triple threat type of a thing, during that match. You'd have that continuation. I'm fine with whatever.
I say an outside shot. It could actually
guys with towels. That should be the name of their faction.
With towels. GWT. That's good marketing. They all got towels, don't they? Never even noticed that. I don't know why.
And then you pass them out. They wave towels during their matches. See, now I'm thinking like a WWE marketing guy.
Great. Next we got Brody King and Lance Archer. This was exactly what you'd expect. Don Callis was on commentary. Fans were chanting meat. Callis got up from the commentary desk at one point, grabbed Brody's leg. So Archer got on offense for a bit. Crowd was chanting, "Fuck Don Callis." Centers were desperately trying to mute it, but not too successfully. And here's where I wrote that they should be doing more updates on Swerve and Mox. They went to break with them brawling outside. They come back from break. They're just going nuts at each other. I kind of started to lose interest. Crowd did too. Then Archer hit a choke slam. Brody hit some clotheslines. Hit a cannonball. Hit a lariat. Crowd's chanting "meat forever." Archer went for a choke slam. And then Brody just hit him with a lariat and got the pin. The pinfall was kind of anticlimactic. Don Callis got up, threw down his headset, and glared a hole through Lance Archer. So feel like that he may be dumping him soon.
I think possibly with the Brian Cage injury that they might just dump Archer.
Yeah.
And then we can push Mark Davis.
Or maybe they just put Mark Davis. Yeah. Maybe Trent's back soon, and they can do Mark Davis and Trent. Oh, God. Why did I say that? That could actually be a good team, honestly.
I'm going to have nightmares about that now. Thanks.
I think I mentioned this earlier. Would have loved to have seen Chris checking on Willow on one of the updates that they could have done. Yeah. That would have been good. That would have been really good, honestly. So they ran. Here's Dynasty. You know what? I'll save this after the recap. We'll go back to it and we'll talk about it, and we'll just do our quick predictions. So they ran down the Dynasty card anyways. And then they announced that the main event would be the next match, which is Cope and Claudio Castagnoli. So couldn't have come too soon. I was really starting to get bored at this point. The crowd was kind of singing Cope's theme song. And I wrote down, you know what? Like, it was a nice effort.
They didn't know the words to the. They didn't know the words to the second verse.
No, and we just got this run of shows that WWE did in Europe where the fans know the words to all the songs, so it looked kind of bad in comparison. But I mean, good on them for trying.
But they've been doing this with. They did this at Revolution with his theme.
It's becoming a thing where they're waiting for the crowd to do it now. It was nice when it was organic. Like I think that was in Australia where it was like organic, and with Jericho, like when they started singing his theme song, like it never got old. Like he stopped it before it got old, And here it's already feeling old with Cope. Maybe it's because Cope looks so old. I don't know. Anyways, they had this match, and I can't even with this. Like, they just wrestled and they went on, and one guy was in control, then the other guy was in control, and they're beating on each other, and nobody gives a shit. And halfway through the match, breaking news: Hurt Syndicate and Bill and Keith on Sunday. Then they go back and they wrestle some more, and they wrestle some more, and they wrestle some more, and then they announce a Collision, and they got a full lineup for Collision, which Excalibur couldn't even be bothered to mention some of these matches, but they put them on the screen, so I recapped them here for you. We got Cash Wheeler against Pac. We got Top Flight versus the Crew. We got Speedball Mike Bailey against Dralistico with Ricochet on commentary. We got Powerhouse Hobbs and Tomohiro Ishii versus Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita. My God, that sounds awesome. And we got Mercedes Moné and Harley Cameron against Athena and Julia. And then we're back to this fucking match. Just keep going. I don't care. Claudio gets 2 chairs and brings him in the ring. Puts one under Cope's head. Ref pulls the chair away. While the ref's distracted, Cope low blows Claudio, and he tossed the other chair. Taz said he can't blame him. Crowd picks up now. Spears Claudio, gets the pin. So I think this is a key. This is a hint that actually Cope is turning heel. I think he's going to, when he joins up with Christian, they're going to be heels. Everyone's wondering, how are you going to turn Christian babyface? You're not. You're going to turn Cope heel. He's a dirty cheater. He kicked Claudio in the gonads here and got the pin.
Yeah, but he's a babyface cheating against heels who always cheat. So
was I wrong? Was I too hard on that match? Like, this match just
but you're wrong. You're too hard on the wrong guy.
Oh, it was Claudio?
Well, no, I mean they're both.
I'm not hard.
They both have their flaws.
They just don't work well together, in my opinion. Like they should.
Again, Claudio hits guys with thunderous forearms, and they just come right back, and we're just wrestling again. It's like there's nothing there to it. So,
and it was just
let's get to this angle. Let's get to this angle after the match.
So yeah, I mean, at this point, it's like 9 o'clock, or 10 o'clock in the east, or 7 o'clock in the west. The show should be over, and they're taking their time. Cope is leaving. The crowd, like the camera's shooting him from the front to the point where you think there's something coming. Somebody's going to attack him or something, because they don't usually shoot people like that. Nope, nothing happened there. And then Excalibur says, "Oh, let's go to the back with Renee. We're going to get a medical update." It's like, the show should be over. What are we doing?
That's what I'm saying too. I was like, man, they ended on time. But wait, there's that Swerve thing that they were talking about at the end of the show,
which they never mentioned, like once.
Yeah.
Like even, like they could have said some point in the main event, stay tuned after the main event, because we know Swerve promised to get his hands on Jon Moxley, but I don't know. Anyways, they show Swerve. He's arguing with Prince Nana again, and Nana walked away in disgust. So I don't know what's going on there.
Yes.
Then Renee asked if he had an update, and he says, "I'm looking for your husband right now." He walked away and he looked mean. And then Hangman shows up and he's yelling at him. And Swerve's screaming at him, "You're wasting your time." Or I think it was Hangman said that. Million security like immediately appear, and they're trying to separate them. Hangman screams, "I promise you, I'll never hold that championship again. I'm a man of my word." And he says, "You broke into my home." Swerve says, "You burnt my house down." Hangman says, "You deserved it." And Swerve says, "I know." And Hangman's like, "What? Wait, what did you say?" And Swerve's like, "I said, I know." And then Hangman was just floored, and then he just left.
Stormed off.
Yeah.
Okay, let's pause here for a moment.
The acting was good, I thought.
I liked this.
Okay.
It is inexcusable that they put this on an overrun after an overly long Cope and Claudio match.
How many people shut the show off when the match ended?
This is a major, big flashing light plot point in this feud. And they put it on an overrun. No, this show should have been a tight 2 hours, and this should have ended the show. And then we'd all be talking, and snap! What's going on with this? it's oh, I can't even put words to it.
Hey, we got it. I just want to read Matt's comment here because he's echoing what you said, kind of. I thought they nailed it with the closing Swerve angle. Running off the audience with an edge match beforehand probably cost them some pay-per-view buys. You know, they could have just cut away from the edge match and done this angle.
Yes, we didn't need to linger on this. We could have just gone to the Swerve.
No.
Done, I mean,
forget the match. Let the match is still going. You know, they can still be wrestling for all I care. Go to the back. All right, Lady B.
Picture.
Lady B has a super chat that puts us over the edge. So Lady B, take some time to think about it. You get to choose what Dynamite we're going to review. So pick one that you haven't seen because I know you're going back and watching some of that old stuff. So let us know. We'll review it. It'll be a special show, and we'll review it. We'll pick a time and everything. So you let us know. But he says, here's your $15 XOXO. What storyline do you think AEW should take to build toward a Kenny versus Okada dream match? Should they only acknowledge their NJPW history or create a fresh AEW-centric rivalry? Okay, key is you're asking should. You're not asking what we think they will do, right?
What should they do?
What should they do? I think they should do a story, and I think this should play into Kenny and the Bucks somehow because Okada's was aligned with them. I think that's what makes the most storyline sense. But I do think it should be something fresh with AEW, acknowledging the NJPW history, but also giving fans a reason. So you want to mention they have this history, they've had these great matches in the past, but here's why they're fighting now.
I think you have to do some major refresh on Okada. Yeah. And in terms of he has to buy in to whatever you're going to do with him. And he has to become kind of a killer to me. And, you know, maybe the Bucks come back and they're all high-five, and then Okada just murder deaths them. And maybe murder deaths Jungle Boy, too, while he's at it. He kills that entire elite crew and says, you all were never really not friends with Kenny or whatever. Maybe just the Bucks. You can just do it with the Bucks. And then he has a couple of matches where he is New Japan Okada, but he is vicious, and he's lifting guys up at 2 to do more moves on them.
I like that, and
it's all about putting Kenny out once and for all. Now that he's weak, I'm going to target your stomach. I'm going to target. Yeah, go ahead.
Would you accept Kenny challenging him? And then Okada saying, no, you're a bitch. I don't want to wrestle you anymore. I've already beat you a bunch of times. And then Kenny having to earn the shot.
No.
Okay. I think the latter might be more likely.
Because that's more likely, and that's what's going to happen.
But I like your story. I love your story, actually.
In fact, I'd like Kenny to be kind of that arrogant Kenny.
You know what I want?
Okada's coming for me.
If Don Callis is getting rid of Lance Archer to make room in his stable, bring in Okada.
I'll take that. Sure.
Yeah. And then that goes into the Kenny thing as well, because there's a long history between Kenny and the Don Callis family. And then you could even
but I want Okada to say a line like "No more bitch, everybody my bitch now" or something like that.
Kenny and the Bucks against Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, and Okada. Oh my God.
And then Mark Davis comes down with a bag of toys.
Yeah. Oh, I would. Oh, yeah. Okay, we got to have this now. We're fantasy booking this. I love that question. Kevin says, put Okada with Callis and use that to turn Takeshita to feud with him after the Kenny feud. Yeah, I mean, you could do that eventually down the road. But Okada with Callis, and Callis trying to get out that mean killer instinct in him.
Yeah, you kind of have Takeshita kind of with them, but kind of also jealous, almost like what was originally going to be the Tully Blanchard type of role in the Horsemen with Flair, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
but you know he can turn it any time, but he chooses not to just yet, and sometimes he even buys into the crew. Yeah. There you go.
Love that question, Lady B. So take some time, let us know. You got our contact info. We'll figure this out. And if you want
to torture Paul, make him review the one where they were dressed as Ghostbusters.
Oh my God. God. Yeah. Remember when the Dark Order were going to be a thing? That was their redemption when they got the win over the Elite. Oh my God. Joseph, who's been in our camp all night, says if he never saw the Bucks, Jericho, Moxley, and Cope again, it would make this show much more palatable. Oh my God. She said she's going to do the Space Jam episode. Yeah. Well,
oh no.
Go ahead and figure out the date, Lady B. I'm not doing it. No, that's the one you talked about, isn't it?
No, I was just joking.
No, that's a different one. That's a different one. I actually like that one. I like that entrance. Everyone wondered, how could you like Space Jam but not Ghostbusters? Well, I don't know. I just did. I think I like the music. They came out to the NBA music, and I like that.
It's a round ball rock. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're not done yet. So Cope leaves. Claudio's in the ring. Camera's following him. Oh, wait. Okay. No, I got that. So they did the thing. And then Mox and Pac attacked Swerve. And Wheeler joined in. Marina's beating up security, even though she's only got one arm. And Mox says, "You looking for me?" And he's like, "Pick him up." And then they toss him into a box with a glass door. And then he said, "Let's get his ass to the ring." So they drag Swerve out to the arena. And I wrote down, it was a 3-on-1 attack, but then I was like, no, it's 4-on-1. And then with Marina, it's 5-on-1, but she wasn't doing much. Pac and Wheeler held up Swerve for Mox. Mox starts slapping him, taunting him. Wheeler grabs a bucket, and he empties the bucket, and it's a pail of broken glass. And at this point, I'm like, between Willow getting DDT'd and now, Swerve's probably going into this glass. I'm like, I don't like this. And Claudio powerbombed him into the glass. Fans are chanting, "Holy shit." They left through the crowd. Swerve sat up like he was the Undertaker. He's got glass all over his back, but it's just kind of like there, and he's not bleeding. So it was pretty clear it was fake glass. So I was okay with the fake glass. And then, but I will say, Kate, I think they did the glass for shock value. I think it would have been more effective just to beat the holy living hell out of this guy and leave him bloody. Like actually do the fake blood or whatever and just pound on him. Like, I'm okay with blood. I don't have an issue with blood. I don't like people being powerbombed in the glass. I don't mind people being pounded into oblivion and coming up with bloody faces. That's what I'm watching. I'm watching fighting. I'm not watching stunts. You know what I mean? Like, people say, well, how can you watch UFC where people are fighting it? Because it's natural. It happens. It's a result of a fight. It's not a stunt. That's the difference to me. So, yeah, but I mean,
yeah, but but you're gonna be very unhappy because I think at Dynasty, this is what this match is gonna become: is what can we slam people into?
Yeah, well, whatever. The thing is, if I buy the show, actually, I already did. Then I know what I'm getting into, and if I'm getting a Swerve Mox match, I know what I'm getting into, so I can't complain about it. I literally can't complain about it, because I paid for it. So I can't come on here later and say that was awful, blah, blah, because I paid for it. But in this case, like, I didn't pay for this and I wasn't expecting it. And actually, it wasn't even that bad because it wasn't real glass and he wasn't even bleeding and it was fine. But I think it would have been more effective to just beat the living hell out of him. Not for real, but he could have bladed at some point, and then he comes up all bloody and they leave him lying in a pool of his own blood, and he steps up and he licks his blood and he's like, "I'm gonna get you." Yes. Paul Fontaine equals CM Punk. No real glass. Yes. Despite my heat with Phil, I'm on board with a lot of what he does.
We're running long. Let's preview Dynasty.
All right. So Dynasty. Let me scroll back through my notes here. This will be quick. Where the hell is the card? I wrote it down. Where the frick is Dynamite? Dynasty.
Just go to the
I know that. Oh, here we go. Okay, Moxley versus Swerve. Okay, so based on this angle, Swerve has to win, so he's not gonna.
I think Swerve wins with Hangman's help.
I hope you're right. I would love it if you're right.
Hangman's gonna take out the other Death Riders for Swerve, so he can do it 1-on-1.
That would be cool. Maybe. Well, no, it wouldn't be Cope. Maybe somebody else gets involved too. Toni Storm against Megan Bayne for the AEW Women's World Championship. I think Toni retains. I think we're on a collision course with Mercedes Moné at some point.
No diggity, no doubt.
Yeah. Ricochet versus Kenny Omega versus Speedball for the international title. I'm going to pick the upset here. I think Ricochet wins. I think he pins Speedball.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. I think Kenny does not need that title when he goes into the match with Okada, and it actually makes more sense if he doesn't have the title. People are talking about a unification match. They're not going to unify titles. Tony doesn't do that. So yeah, I think it's when Omega and Okada wrestle, it's going to be for the Continental title and not the international title. So you're agreeing with me. Cool. Garcia versus Danny Garcia versus Adam Cole, TNT title, no time limit, no interference. If you only watch Dynamite, this was because they did a 20-minute draw on Collision. I think it was 2 weeks ago. And there's been interference at some point, I think, in some matches. So no interference allowed in this match, even though no interference is ever allowed in matches. But for some reason, it's a selling point in this one. I don't know if people get fired if they interfered. Or who knows? It's like a Continental match, I guess. But anyways, I think Cole wins, and then he gets attacked by Jungle Boy after the match.
I think it's a selling point. I think probably okay. Well, that's a good one. I thought possibly Cole turns heel and those guys interfere, and he wins the belt.
Oh, so they actually do have interference, even though we advertise no interference.
Correct.
You could do that. But I
think Cole's coming out of this with the belt one way or another because
Garcia's, but I think he's going to be. I think we're going to see the return of Jungle Boy on Sunday, and he'll be feuding with Cole for the title. Will Ospreay versus Will Ospreay versus Kevin Knight, first round tournament match in the Owen. I mean, obviously Will Ospreay's going to win, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then Mercedes Moné and Julia Hart, another first round women's title match. Julia Hart.
Mercedes will want some time, I think.
Yeah.
To see if she can carry Julia Hart, but yeah, she's going to win that.
I think this match might surprise some people. I don't think it's going to be as good as some Mercedes matches, but I think it's going to be better than probably people are expecting it to be.
Oh, yeah,
I think that Will Ospreay Kevin Knight match might steal the show. I think that could be really special. Death Riders and Rated FTR for the trios titles. I don't care, but I think Death Riders retain. I think Joe and his crew are going to be beating the Death Riders for these belts.
If as long as I get a beatdown after the match, I'll be fine with that.
Like
if it's
FTR
just to
beating on Edge.
Yes. If it's just to delay that until after Sunday, we need to talk, and it's on Wednesday, and then they decide to do this angle. No thanks.
Okay.
Otherwise, right. I want Rated FTR to win this thing. But I think the Death Riders are going to continue to be the trios champions. Nobody knows.
Yeah. And then the other match was Hurt Syndicate against Big Bill and Brian Keith. I know we both want Big Bill and Brian Keith to win, but I don't think
there's no way in hell they're doing it.
I think MJF helps the Hurt Syndicate actually retain, even though they don't want his help and they don't need his help. He's going to help anyways. He might even help Screw Up, and then they overcome the Screw Up anyways and still beat Keith and Bill, which I don't want to see that, but I could absolutely see it happening. But I actually think, he helps them even though they don't need it. Maybe they don't even realize he helped, and then they figure it out later, and then they're pissed.
Then it leads to Jericho braiding Brian Keith, and Bill turns on Jericho.
Yeah, that could be. And then maybe Keith turns on Bill, and then we get the long-awaited Big Bill.
No, I don't think Keith
I like those two as a team.
Getting beat up. I do too.
That's a good team. It's a really good team. And I think that's it. I mean, I imagine we'll get some tournament matches. We know Tomohiro Ishii's around, so he'll probably be on a pre-show match, and Blake Christian will probably be wrestling somebody, and Lee Johnson, and
Blake Christian's gonna be wrestling Tomohiro Ishii in the pre-show. That's the perfect pre-show.
Probably. Maybe he'll win. Matt forgot Brian Keith existed. Oh, how dare you?
How dare you?
Show some respect, Matt. All right. That's it. There's going to be a post show. I don't think we're going to be on it. I I think
I may not
Jeremy
even get to watch.
Feinstein will be. We don't know exactly who else. I don't want to say anything in case I'm wrong. Oh, he meant Keith Lee. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think the next time we see Keith Lee might be at Mia
Swerve
Yim's Hall of
match.
Fame ceremony.
Okay.
Which probably isn't going to be for a while. All right. So that's it. So yeah, tune into this channel. I think it'll be on the YouTube channel as well as the audio feed on Sunday night after the pay-per-view. So pay-per-view starts at 7 Eastern, or I think, no, 8 Eastern. So yeah, we have the post-show probably around 1:30. God. Jeff, get your plugs in.
At Crap Game 13 on X. I also do a show over on Voices of Wrestling called Shake Them Ropes with Chris Novembrino this week. We'll review the last couple shows for the WWE over in Europe. Looks like they put some heat on the old Gunther and John Cena angles. I'm very happy about that. And we'll also preview Dynasty, see what Nov has to say. No Vader Club announced just yet because Chris hasn't told me, and he's too busy getting interviewed by music magazines. But that'll drop in your feed probably Saturday or Sunday.
All right. And I don't really have anything to promote other than this show. So I'll be back next week with you. If you missed it, you can check out our retro recap, the watch back, where we recap the original Double or Nothing. And I believe at some point in the next couple of months, Garrett is going to have a couple different guests on, and they're going to recap the WWE Evolution, which should be very interesting, and maybe even get some women on there. That'd be cool too. And then we will be doing a show at some point when Lady B tells us what. Maybe it's that Space Jam episode, if she can give me the date. If she wants, I can look it up. But anyways, so for Jeff Hawkins, I've been Paul Fontaine, and this has been the Dynamite Show.